Did you know that you can hack your body's biology to sleep better, improve your life, live longer through small, actionable, intentional strategies? Well, that's the fascinating world of biohacking, a science backed approach that improves your life and longevity. In fact, biohacking has become more of a global revolution now. But many still wonder, is it just a myth, or it's just a hype, or do these strategies actually work? Welcome back to another episode of the Gayu podcast, where we explore conversations that inspire, educate, and empower. I'm Gayu Lewis, your host and a holistic wellness advocate. Today, I am thrilled to be joined by Dr. Elie. He is a Harvard alumnus and an expert in biohacking, fitness recovery, and longevity. Through his company, Restore Fitness, Dr. Elie combines these cutting edge technologies with practical strategies that help people unlock their body's full potential. Today, we'll dive into the world of biohacking, explore its benefits, and unlock ways that you can incorporate these strategies into your daily life. Get ready for a fascinating and actionable conversation. Let's hack it. Dr. Elie, I'm so happy to have you on this podcast.
I'm so happy to be here. I've been excited the whole week to be here. Thank you for having me.
Let's address the elephant in the room. What exactly is biohacking? It sounds like a science fiction term. For a layman, what is it?
Yeah, so when people hear the word hacking, they think immediately of a computer being hacked. It's dangerous, this, that, information being lost. Biohacking is much simpler than that. So if you think of it holistically, biohacking is basically everything that you do to yourself while being aware of it. So you eat, you sleep, you work out, you stress, you go to work, you raise a family, you do all of these different things, but we do them mechanically. Biohacking suggests that you do it mindfully, meaning you know what is happening in your body. You are aware of the environment you're exposed to. You're aware of the environment internally, your gut, your general health, your blood work, and you make changes accordingly, either through using technology or not, in order for you to be as optimized as possible. And the results can be phenomenal. The stuff that you can do in order for you to feel better, sleep better, react better, emotions are better, the strength that you have, the stamina, the stress levels, all of those can be hacked, so to speak.
So, is biohacking fairly new, or did it exist centuries ago?
Well, it's always been around as far as I'm concerned. However, the term was coined only a few decades ago. And it basically, at the beginning, it was mainly around using technology in order for you to learn more about yourself and do better in life. In life, meaning biologically. But biohacking has been around, I think, forever, as long as time, because biohacking for me is as important, if not more important, than any tools or technology you could use today, to actually look back into the wisdom of the ages and see what you learned from your mom and your mom's mom, and what we've learned throughout human history about certain things that are good for us or bad for us. There are things that people already know. Inherently, that know they're good for themselves, good for them, but they don't necessarily do it because of whatever excuses that they think for themselves. For example, a quick one would be, we are designed as creatures to be seasonal. The seasons around the year, be it from food, be it from heat, cold, all of the differences that the body needs all of that seasonality in order for it to be as healthy as possible. But then economics and marketing have added all sorts of things where you can find the same fruit throughout the year, and you maybe overeat certain things. And so it changed a little bit. So that's part of biohacking, for you to understand that your body needs break from certain things, if not everything. It's always been around. And the beautiful thing about it is that you could learn from the past. You could use whatever is in the present for you to optimize, be it tools, be it conversations like these, be it experimenting with your own body, be it tracking what you do and then make adjustments. And the beautiful thing about it, that is my personal favorite, is affecting the future. Because everyone around you gets influenced by what you do when you biohack yourself. People get inspired by you, that's one. Two, your family does what you do, most likely. because they see the difference. Your friends do the same. And we now know that through epigenetics, you're able to even switch on and off certain genes that may be harmful or good for you. And that could be passed on to your future generations. So, how great is that to be able to do something now, learn from the past, and then impact the future?
Amazing. What got you into biohacking?
I think naturally for me, and again, I was very, very fortunate to grow up in a household where that was always the case. Like, what is best for you? Seasonality was one. Pickling things at home, not buying stuff off the shelf, for example, jamming stuff so they could be had during winter, the sort of foods that we would eat and the variety of it. So, from a nutritional perspective, I was always kind of naturally aware of it without me thinking I'm hacking something or I'm changing something, because there wasn't a bad alternative. It was just what we had. And we quickly realized that doing that is part of what's contributing to our health and other things like that. And again, these are things that were learned from previous generations. So, and then I was into fitness early age, and I realized that that was the fundamental aspect for me to stay healthy and young biologically. And then throughout my life, this obviously wasn't a path for me to work in. So I was mainly in education. And then I pivoted later on into doing this much more full time.
You were lucky to be in a household where, where wellness was probably the mantra. But what about the people who, unfortunately, where they probably grew up eating processed food and, and not eating the right fruits and vegetables? What happens with them? Can they still use biohacking at some point in their life to actually improve?
Absolutely, absolutely, because the body is incredible at recovery. The body is incredible at fixing itself. All we have to do is understand what's going on. So, two things. The body is constantly speaking to us. You feel pain, you feel niggles, you feel bloated, you feel you're not sleeping well, you're stressed, all of these different things. The body is constantly telling you things. We just need to listen. That's one. Two, everyone should be doing blood tests regularly. Blood test is a snapshot of whatever is happening in your body at the moment. Get a full panel blood test, understand what is happening. Then you supplement deficiencies, you make changes to your lifestyle in order to avoid bigger problems in the future. Understand what is happening with your body. That is absolutely key. There is no excuse at this day and age for anyone to kind of say, well, it is what it is. There's so much information out there, and especially with the advent of AI, health is in your hands. It's no longer, I need to go see this all-knowing person that will take care of all of my ailments. I'm responsible to my own health, first of all. Modern medicine is incredible and absolutely essential for everything that we do. But at the same time, we are responsible for our own health to make sure that we do the right things. We can't expect, for example, to put toxins into our bodies and then no repercussions. To smoke, to drink, to not sleep well, to not exercise, to do all of the things that most of us do, unfortunately. And then we're surprised when something goes wrong with our biology. It's minor changes like these. It's a mindset. It's a lifestyle. This is what I repeat to people. There are no magic bullets. There is no one thing you do and everything changes. When you eat well, you no longer think about eating well. It becomes your lifestyle. It's the same when you're not eating well, eating processed food and heavily processed food and so on. You don't really think about, am I eating processed food? You just do it because it's part of your lifestyle. So a lifestyle shift is absolutely necessary for individuals.
You mentioned this, and you've been an educator for many years. Is everyone willing to make this change, or do they really wait for something to really go wrong in them and then try to make the change?
Unfortunately, in some cases, it is so. They're usually a wake-up call. They find out, they're pre-diabetic, or they find out they're obese, or they find out they have visceral fat that is around their major organs. All of these different things end up as a wake-up call for them, and they start making changes. Unfortunately, a lot of people go down the traditional sort of medicine road,
Yep.
which is great, as I said, but at the same time, there are things that you could do yourself. You have to make the commitment. Unfortunately, it is the case.
I've seen that in my coaching career. That's why I said, till the time there is no red flag, people are not looking for help.
Yeah, because we're all seeking comfort at all times, and most of us don't want to know. So if you ask someone, have you done a blood test? Well, yeah, I'd rather not know. but it's it's your body. You know which car exactly you're going to buy. You know things that are really not detrimental and not the foundation of everything that you do, and you still spend a lot of time and effort making sure you find out every piece of detail. But when it comes to you, you just want to sweep it under the carpet. Finding more about who you are and what's happening in your body at the moment can prevent so many things, and not just for you. It's for the people that depend on you, for your family, for your future generations, and so on.
True. They always say, you always have a scheduled, car maintenance thing, but you don't have something scheduled for yourself.
Exactly.
You can replace a car,
Yeah.
but you can't replace yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
So, talking about biohacking, if someone had to start, where can they start?
Yeah. So simply by, first of all, understanding what is happening in their body. So just a simple blood test and understand what's going on there. See if there are any deficiencies. And then once you know what the deficiencies are, ideally through a health professional, coach of some sort, a doctor, preferably holistic, integrative, or functional medicine, because these look at root causes also, which is fantastic. This is what you want, and not just tackle symptoms. You start there. And sometimes for most people, you start with something much simpler than that, like start with optimizing your sleep, because it's, again, the foundation of all recovery for the body, where the body gets renewed. So while you are sleeping, so many beautiful things happen to you, especially for your brain, which then helps with overall activity throughout the day, the way you react to people, the way you respond to stress, and so on. And it's the only time that your brain gets renewed with energy is during sleep. If there's only one thing that you can or is willing to do, I would definitely work on sleep to start with. But knowing what is happening with your body is absolutely key. And then obviously tracking. I see that I am, tracking what is happening, tracking your HRV, understand why it is low, your heart rate variability, why it is low. Is it because of stress? Is it because of this, lack of sleep, etc.? Check your BMI and understand your body's composition, how much fat percentage, how much muscle percentage, and so on. There are a few things like that. So education is all around us. We just need to look for it.
You just spoke about wearables. You and I are wearing one, but there's so many available in the market, right? How do you understand which one would be right for me? I mean, is there someone that you go and approach, or would you just go research and then find out what's going to
I
be
think
good for
research is the main thing that you can do. There aren't sort of any authorities specifically on the sort of wearable that you would do. But some people prefer something on the wrist versus a ring on the finger, and others prefer a ring on the finger on the wrist. I do both in order to get more information. Even my bed is smart, so it tells me about my heart rate variability. So I have different sources of these, because not all of them measure, for example, heart rate variability in the same way. One do medium, one do average. You have to understand the differences between of those. And you don't have to go that deeply. It's just you need to understand a trend. And it's not about single events. It's about overall, how are you when it comes to HRV? We all go up and down based on whatever is happening in our life. And this is what life is about. But understanding the general health of your heart rate variability, or your BMR, or number of steps that you do per day, and so on, is key. So as far as I'm concerned, it's not important which one that you use. As long as you are comfortable with it, you're going to commit to it. It doesn't bother you, so it becomes a chore, and you stick with it.
If there were a list of 5 non-negotiable things, wearables, or any other thing that you would use, what are those?
I love to understand how my sleep is going. So that's something that I either introspect and understand, because the misconception when it comes to biohacking is that everything needs to be expensive. Not true. Everything around you is designed for you. You could either be in a place that is harmful to you, or you could be in a place that is beneficial and great for you. And you could make the effort to understand the distinction and do what is best for you. So sleep is absolutely key. And understanding how well you sleep and committing to it. And even without the tracker, if you know what time you're going to bed, what time you're waking up, what is the quality, how do you feel in the morning, are you bloated, are you energetic, etc., that's fantastic for you to kind of understand. But the tracker gives you a few more information that perhaps help you to see over long term. So nutrition is the next one. So for most people, the problem with nutrition is that lack of time. Busy days, running from one place to another, et cetera, et cetera. And as we spoke earlier, we plan for everything. We plan for our trips, we plan our holidays, we plan our kids' play dates, we plan everything. But when it comes to food, we just assume wherever we're going, we're going to find something to eat. So planning a little bit, taking a few minutes every day to plan your food, and maybe take them with you. So you'll know that you're eating wholesome, where the ingredients are coming from, clean, etc. So a little bit of planning for your nutrition goes an amazing way. So there's so much benefits to that. So I always say plan your nutrition like you plan everything else. The other one is mental health. So that's non-negotiable for me either. So taking time out, spending time in nature, focusing on your breath occasionally, sitting in a calm, quiet place, and being mindful, even in everything that you do, even when having this conversation. Just be here and now, connect to the person, understand what is happening, and let that flow out rather than the stress, the short breath, all of that. So mental health is key. And if you're able to or inclined to do so, maybe seek a mental health professional. Like understand what are your traumas, how are they holding you back, and it could be maybe the source of why you're not healthy because they're holding you back in that sense. The thing that I always stress on here, especially, is also hydration because most people say, "Oh, I drink 3-4 liters of water, but this is not helping, or I feel there's water retention in my body and things like that." The problem is not the water itself; is that we don't understand what is happening from a electrolyte perspective, from minerals. So most water that we drink is filtered water. So we need water that is mineralized, or you take additional minerals. And that, again, doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be super expensive electrolytes that you would have to buy. And most of these I'm not a fan of anyway, because they include all sorts of synthetic stuff. Yeah. So some good quality salt. Nature provides everything. So if you look, you'll find, and you'll be able to do stuff accordingly. Just a pinch of salt in your water in the morning in your first glass. It gives you all the nutrients that you want from a mineral perspective. And then the food does the rest when you're eating whole food. But if you're focused only on water and not paying attention to your minerals, you're not going to get what you need. Third is workouts, muscle mass, absolutely essential. And people always find excuses not to do that enough. Or if they do it very exclusively in one particular aspect. So you ask someone, do you work out? Oh, yes, I do. I go to the gym every day. What do you do at the gym? I just go to the gym. I use elliptical, I use treadmill. And that's exactly what they do on a day-to-day basis. While we understand very clearly that the body needs to be challenged, especially when it comes to workout. Adversity helps the body to grow. And the same with inflammation. Literally, when your muscle grows, it gets inflamed in order for it to grow. And in order for that to happen, there needs to be trauma. Trauma only happens when you're pushing yourself. So comfort, I always say comfort is the encouragement of disease. You need to get out of your comfort zone, even when you're working out. You need to push yourself. You need to do HIIT exercise. You need to have functional mobility, cardiovascular, of course, weight shifting, meaning moving weights around, and adding all of these together during a week is what everyone should be doing. The functional helps you to sit up and sit down properly without making noises and being silly, so or having to lean on something. And then it helps you as you grow older too, not to depend on anyone, to still have your dignity, someone to carry you to the bathroom, bring you out. Like there are people in their 60s and 70s that require assistance in order for this to happen. And then there's no turning back, so it's really hard, or it's harder to do it then than to start early. True. And the earlier you start, the greater the foundation it is for all of this. So these are generally my non-negotiables for me. I know there are a lot, but they're a lifestyle. As I said, it's the same. Working out as a lifestyle is the same as not working out as a lifestyle. There's no difference. You're making an effort somewhere, right? So make that effort for you, for your future, for your health, for growing gracefully, aging gracefully, and so on.
This brings me to one of the most important topic that it's very close to my heart, which is women wellness. Now, how can women, are there any specific techniques or biohacking, gadgets or anything that women should implement to improve their life?
I always, and I can't stress this enough, is that there is no general blanket that fits everyone, be it humanity as a whole or the different sexes. So it's very important to understand what's going on in your body right now. Even though we're sharing the same environment, we are all one, we breathe the same air, we drink the same water, all of that. There are many different variabilities that are happening within your body that is different than mine. Not just because you're female and I'm a male, just as human beings. But then there's the added complexity of the difference between females and males. We all know the difference in hormones, in the way metabolism work for women is versus men, the amount of muscle in men's physiology versus that in a woman. And all of these, as you know yourself, are key for proper metabolism, for sleep, for general health, for your endocrine system, all of these different things. So I always say, regardless if you are male or female, always learn about you. Don't just listen blindly and follow general advice. There are certain guidance, if you want, like signs that will tell you this way versus that way. But you need to understand what is happening with you first. And then from there on, make adjustments that work for you. People ask me what I do myself for this and that. I gladly say it. But then I say, this works for me. It may not work for you. It's really important. I worked on finding what works best for me. And some of them may work well for you. We all understand that there are universal truths, like muscle mass is good, healthy or whole food is good. That's great. But what works for you? Some things you can methylate, some things you cannot. Some things your body responds to well, some things not. If I say I take maca root, for example, for energy, it may not work for someone else, and so on. So for women specifically, exercise is key, movement is key, and understanding their hormonal imbalances is absolutely essential too, especially as we grow a little older. And spending time in nature, I think, for women is even more important, as far as I'm concerned, than men, even though we all need it. There's a certain connection that is really important for us to have with nature. In general, taking charge of your health. Most women are incredibly intuitive for all sorts of things, but when it comes to their own health, unfortunately, they're not as much. So generally, what I do is encourage all the women in my life is to be more intuitive as far as what's happening in their bodies, and again, make the right choices. And unfortunately, I find most of them afraid of building muscle because they don't want to bulk out. But it doesn't have to be. But when we say muscle, we don't mean
bodybuilding.
Bodybuilding. So you just need to have the right percentage in your body in order for your metabolism to work well, for your endocrine system to work well, for you to sleep better, and so on, and as I said, to grow gracefully.
I told you I'm a menopause coach. I coach a lot of women on that and that age bracket through the whole perimenopause. We speak about weighted blankets as something that people can use. What's your take on that? Does it really help? Is it that warm, compression hug that it actually gives you?
I think a lot of people respond incredibly well to that. It has the cozy feeling to it. Some people feel a little claustrophobic with it. It's like everything else. It may work on a larger percentage of people, but it will not work for every single person. And it's definitely more popular with the gentler side of the species, the female species, rather than the men. So they're more attractive there. And it's been seen or shown that it helps to reduce your stress levels. It helps you to stay still also. So anything that keeps you in the moment, keeps you where you are, I think is really good for you.
What about infrared lights? When they say it helps in reducing inflammation, and specifically with women, as we go through the menopause, there could be chances of osteoporosis, osteopenia, leading to, joint pains. Does red light therapy help?
Yes. So there's a lot of talk on red light therapy, and it's been there's a lot of information around it and all of that. But red light therapy does work, and it's not a new thing. Unfortunately, people think that this is like it just popped up right now in the last couple of years. Not true. This has been around for many, many decades. Since the 60s, even NASA took it up to space to help with the experimentation. And ever since, it's been used in hospitals after surgery to increase recovery, to accelerate recovery. Dentists use it. All sorts of practitioners use red light. Now it's in the public use because of LEDs. LEDs are much cheaper to produce. You consume less energy, and so on. So people are seeing the benefits of that for sure. So red light therapy is something that you could also get for free. You don't really need to get a panel for you to be exposed to red light. Red light obviously is part of the light spectrum. So that means if you expose yourself to sunlight in the morning, very early or late during the day, you're still going to get some red light exposure. But you also get a lot of the other stuff too, which are really good for you, all of the rest of the spectrum, which helps boost vitamin D and improve mood and reduce stress and all of these different things. So red light has been shown to improve collagen in the body. It also is shown to accelerate recovery, as we said earlier. Now, there are also the visible light, which is red light, the one that we see, and then there is something called near infrared light. So near infrared light is an invisible light, and that penetrates your body a little bit deeper, and it helps with reducing inflammation and general recovery also. And then in certain saunas, you can also get far infrared light, and that also has other benefits as from a recovery perspective, anti-inflammation, and so on. So in general, for any human being, male or female, exposure to that sort of thing is helpful. Being in a sauna and being to any heat therapy or thermal therapy, be it hot or cold, has its own benefits too. The questions here, then people ask, which one do I get? How strong? This, that. I think there's way too much discussion in regards to that. If in doubt, just step outside early morning or in the afternoon. Many of the products that are out there are pretty good. Some maybe are better than others, but unfortunately, I would argue 80% of them you're paying for the brand rather than the actual benefit. And I hate to see that anything that is of benefit for any human being, money becomes an obstacle for. Find something that is reasonable. And again, in everything that I do, being somewhere in the middle is great. It shouldn't be something that could break after the first or second use, and it should be something that is most expensive. In most of these things, the most expensive is not necessarily the best thing for you to buy. I take that as a general rule in life. So, and again, when in doubt, just use natural light. There is nothing better. We're blessed in this part of the world to have light all year round, and to have that exposure. Yeah, I highly recommend it for everyone. It could help with cramps. It could help with muscle pain. There are studies that shows helps with hair loss, general tone of skin. Even recent studies that is suggesting that it's even good for eye health and so on.
Probably I've got to start using that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gets me to another very interesting point, which is ice baths.
Yes.
Is that also under the same biohacking?
Yes. So thermal therapies, again, they're not new. But again, I think for cold therapy, they've been blown out of proportion a little bit more as far as I'm concerned. They have amazing benefits. But again, it's part of your lifestyle that you would do. Even a light cold shower has amazing effects. There doesn't have to be a song and dance around when we expose ourselves to any cold therapy. So ice baths are very beneficial, but mainly they do two things. They work on your nervous system and they work on increasing your recovery. So your body, whenever it's under stress, it's incredible at making sure that you are well and it keeps you safe. So it thinks that you are in danger, and therefore it takes all of the precautions for you to be as healthy as possible so you can survive in that environment for as long as possible. Now, when you get out, there's also this beautiful release of happy hormones. So you feel you've achieved so much. And this can be addictive for certain people that want to do it over and over again. But they also feel the benefits. They feel benefits when you mentioned arthritis before. There are studies that show that this helps with arthritis, reducing pain, increasing recovery time, or decreasing recovery time, I want to say. And it helps generally with managing your stress levels. However, as I said, excessive use is not great. You could do in different modalities, different temperatures, different times, experiment with what works for you. You could even do contrast therapy between hot and cold. It is important also to understand that generally for women, anything that impacts your endocrine system, and ice baths too, like any stress or mild stressor called hormesis, it affects your hormones, and inevitably, both men and women. But for women specifically, in the last week of their cycle, it's generally not advised to you to do ice bath because that may have some negative impacts on your endocrine system.
With so many biohacking stuff available, like you said, some are just nature provided to us and some are trackable. But with all this information that these devices provide us, how do you actually optimize the information that it gives you and then use it to your benefit?
Keep it simple. That's what I say. Keep it simple. So if you are aware of your environment, if you're aware of things such as the air that you breathe, the exposure that you have where you are, for example, in a room such as this, where there have ACs and you spend a lot of time in this room, are they cleaned regularly enough? Is there mold in them, for example? So be aware of the environment that you are in. The water that you drink, how clean is it, etc. Understand what's happening with your teeth, for example. Do you have fillings? Maybe you have heavy metal poisoning in our bodies, and most people do at some point or another. So understanding the environment you expose your body to, your biology to, that's really key. And it doesn't have to be super complicated. Just keep it simple, again. And then do the basics. So regardless of the mountain of information that you may get from your trackers. And a lot of people, I see a lot of people go into extremes trying to break it down and see, and why this and why that and all of that. It does not have to be that complicated. Trust in your body. Your body is incredible at recovering itself. It's incredible at keeping you healthy. That's its natural state. The body's natural state is not sickness. It's not illness. It's not tiredness. It's not lack of sleep. All of that, we induce it to it because of the environment that we expose ourselves to, be it through stress, type of food that we eat, and so on, the stuff that we talked about. So cover the basics. Understand your environment, external.
Yeah.
Understand your internal environment, meaning what food you put in, what fluid you put in, what are your deficiencies, and supplement them. And then move. Sleep, which means recover in general, not just for sleep, but through recovery in general, because sleep is great because it recovers everything, but also make sure that your headspace is recovering too. Meditate a little bit, move to make sure your joints are always healthy and lubricated. So keep it simple. And as I said, make changes in your lifestyle. The information that you receive from trackers, from technology, from other sources, they're only there to aid you to create that lifestyle. But it shouldn't be an obsession. Like, oh my God, today I didn't get this. I only got 7.15 minutes of sleep. And it shouldn't, that adds to your stress. It's counterproductive. Keeping it simple is key.
Okay. I see that you're wearing a CGM, a continuous glucose monitor. This is for people who would not know what a CGM is. Could you explain to us what it does and what are you using it for?
Yeah. So I use a CGM monitor or a continuous glucose monitor twice a year, just to understand what changes are happening in my body as far as how it handles sugar, how it handles glucose. And if do I get any spikes, when, what caused them, how well is my insulin release? And this helps me to manage what I'm doing in my life. And again, I look at the bigger picture. I usually have it for 28 days, and I look at the general report of where were the spikes, how much of a percentage throughout a week, for example, I'm in my green zone. So green zone is when you don't have spikes or dips. You're right in the middle. What does that mean? What does that translate to? Simply, it's just sustained energy. Instead of you feeling, oh my God, I could do anything. And oh my God, I need to sleep. Oh my God, I could do anything, you know? So you're in the middle where sustained energy throughout the day. There are no dips in the afternoon. Understand what that happens. Is your body getting the healthy spikes it needs when you're working out, for example? This is essential to feed the activity that you're doing. Is stress an issue? Is sleep an issue when it comes to that? So it gives me some information on that. And I look at it holistically with everything else that I'm doing. And I try to understand and perhaps make minor tweaks where maybe I'm eating something now that I didn't eat before that is affecting me in a certain way, and I make those changes. The nice thing about these continuous monitors is that in real time, you eat something, it gives you feedback immediately. Spike, not spike, dip, or if you did have a spike, how quickly it dipped afterwards, how quickly is your body is able to adjust to that. And then what is it that you eat that is perhaps keeping you in the green zone where you're not feeling tired, you're not feeling hungry, and you're sustained. And then you do more of these. So it's as simple as that.
Because a lot of people generally think, this monitor is only for people who are either pre-diabetic or diabetic, just to understand, what. And I keep telling them that, this is for you and I, it's for normal people. Just understand what's actually causing the spike. And like I mentioned to you earlier, for me, stress was driving in Dubai was causing the spike. And now I know when I drive, I'm like, I sit and I breathe.
Yeah.
So that, so it helps us make those little changes, understanding what's causing, spikes in yourself.
100%. And the changes can be most of the time really, really simple, like you in traffic. And now you realize it no longer bothers you because you're aware of it, Or you make changes. You drive at a different time, or you change your music that you play in the car, or you do a breathing technique or something. And then that's it. That's all it took for you not to have that. And imagine if you weren't aware of this and the impact of stress that would have had on your body, the long-term impact, So not all stress is bad, but continuous stress is obviously, detrimental for us. So yes, it's definitely not just for pre-diabetic or diabetic individuals, even though they were designed for that. It's also designed to keep you healthy because the sugar, pandemic is terrible for everyone.
True. I like the way you put that, sugar pandemic.
Yeah.
Talking about Restore Fitness, what do you do there? And if there are people that come to you, how does the whole journey work?
Yeah, so it's a humble biohacking center where we focus on recovery mainly. And there are different modalities that people go through, either hyperbaric chamber plus red light. We call it the superhuman protocol because one helps to saturate your tissue with oxygen. The other one helps you to heal quicker, increase collagen and so on. And we have contrast therapy between heat and cold, infrared, compression therapy. We do VO2 max testing. We do anything with it. And we have lots and lots of different equipment or tools for people to use to help them in their biohacking journey and their health optimization journey. Anything from mouth tapes to different red lights, even for your pet. We have red lights for pets, and so on. So we do the whole thing when it comes to optimization.
You said mouth tapes.
Yes.
What's that?
Yeah, so mouth breathing is now discussed a little bit more. And mouth health is one of the most important things that we need to be looking at. Same as when we look at muscle, when we look at mental health, mouth health is really important too. So mouth breathing increases bacteria. That bacteria is translated within what's happening in your body. So when we sleep, most of us are mouth breathers. So if we're able to make the shift into becoming nose breathers, it's actually much healthier for us, and we generally have deeper sleep. But it's something that we need to get used to. So a little tool that helps with that is you actually tape your mouth. It's usually a soft tissue type tape that you put over your mouth. So it still allows certain movement. It's not like completely gagged, but it encourages it to stay shut. And therefore, it encourages you to breathe through your nose. So mouth health means better gut health and so on. So by breathing through your nose, and actually, the nose was designed to make sure the air goes through a filtration system, if you like, before it reaches your lungs. So it works in more than one way.
How do you find out that you breathe with your mouth?
So if you are a snorer, that means you definitely breathe through your mouth. And there isn't an exact way unless you're recording yourself when you go to sleep. But most people know that they breathe through their mouth because if they don't find it easy that they breathe through their nose, or you could simply just put a mouth tape and see how that feels for you. So, but most people are mouth breathers if they haven't trained to be nose breathers.
Yeah, I know what I'm buying my husband for Christmas now.
Yeah.
Any risk associated with biohacking?
Yeah, people do take it to extremes sometimes. So you have to understand that our biology is super, super complicated. So be gentle with yourself, like you do anything else. You don't jump off the cliff without, you realizing what's happening. It is important to do small increments of anything. Do not just take supplements for the sake of taking them or because your friend told you so. Understand what is happening in your body. And when in doubt, ask a professional. Like, even if you have the slightest doubt, don't just say, oh, I'll be fine. You're talking about your biology. And as I said earlier, it's incredibly complicated what happens in our body. We are incredible creatures. Nature is phenomenal. Some people take it to extremes, and especially when it comes to hormones and things like that, where generally aesthetics is the aim, be it growth hormones or, that are long-term effects. And so anyway, that's a whole different topic. But in general, I would always be in the middle, be moderate, be somewhere in the middle, understand, be gentle, increase small increments, see what works for you. And if it doesn't, immediately stop. In doubt, speak to a professional. That's about it. But in general, most biohacking, the wonderful thing about biohacking is that it's all based on experimentation. So most things have been experimented on, and people can learn from each other about what is perhaps something that I could try for me because it has possibly these effects. So experiment, but gently. And that's kind of my advice for most people.
What's your take on the Ozempic trend that's running now? Something that was initially created for diabetic patients, now it's become like a fat loss injection. What's your opinion?
I try not to weigh into this too much, but for me I'm completely against it unless someone has a chronic issue, and this is what it was designed for. So to use it as a shortcut, in general, shortcuts are always find a way to kick you. For most people, from my experience that have used this, it's very difficult to get off it. And when you do, you gain back the weight immediately anyway, because you haven't done lifestyle changes. It has a lot of temporary resolution, but it's not permanent. So it's unfortunate that people are kind of riding that hype, and it has become, I think, one of the richest companies because of that. But hopefully there's a lot more education on it and how it should be used. And it's definitely not for someone that does not have a disease. Such as obesity or something that is chronic. And it has to be done under incredible medical supervision. So I would definitely not take something from my cousin or whatever, or something online or any of those things. Remember, you're putting that into your body that could have detrimental effects. Do your research, be very careful, and understand that this is a medicine that is designed for a specific disease that you're trying to use for something completely different. There is no substitute for hard work, for lifestyle changes and so on.
What's your one key takeaway or advice to someone starting their journey on biohacking?
I think if someone is already aware of it, I think that's a fantastic place to start, because they've already started a spark that will hopefully lead into something much bigger. And again, lifestyle changes that we've been talking throughout this episode. The key thing for me is that you spend a lot of time scrolling, looking at all sorts of things on social media, using, online for all sorts of learning possibilities. Explore the one thing that is the only place you live. Explore what could biohacking mean for your own biology, for your own body. the one thing that everything else is built upon. The foundation of everything is in your life. You know, your kids, your family, your friends, the things that you enjoy, the things that you don't, the strength that will give you later. And it's the one thing that will guarantee you aging well is taking care of it. So have a little curiosity. Start there. Like understand maybe what is it? Ask yourself. And then hopefully this will spark a much larger journey.
Yeah, just be curious about yourself, right? Yeah. Amazing. And where can listeners connect with you? I know they can come to Restore Fitness, but is there any platforms that they can share, they can connect with you?
So I do a lot on social media, and most people get in touch with me there. I do a lot of some of these, and I do a lot of speaking at events. So generally, people kind of that enjoy what I do, they kind of follow me through to these places. So I would say the easiest thing is either through Restore or through my own social media.
Brilliant. We've come to the last segment of the podcast now. This is called the 1% segment. Reason why? 99% of our conversation, about the Gayu Lewis podcast is all about women. But men are a part of our lives too.
Of course.
So there's the 1% that we've dedicated towards them.
Okay.
What's your 1% advice to the men in our lives? What can men do better to help women through their whole journey of life?
I would say listen better. Be a little more supportive in their health journey. Their biology is slightly more complicated than ours. Just show a little more appreciation. I think we all can benefit from that.
Thank you so much for the 1% advice. And thanks again for today's podcast. I think I learned a lot in terms of what biohacking, and like you said, it's not just about the gadgets. It's so many other things that you can do to actually understand what is happening within your body. So thanks a lot
It's
for
my
today.
pleasure. This has been amazing. Thank you so much for having me.
That's a wrap for today. I hope you have now more curiosity in understanding what's actually going inside your body. If you want to get in touch with Dr. Elie for more, we'll have your links down below on the screen for you. And until next time, menopause, why pause? Let's play.